The stars twinkled like scattered music diamonds against the vast darkness of space. The massive Imperial flagship Dominator moved silently through the void, its sleek silver hull gleaming under the light of distant suns. On the command bridge, Admiral Tall stood with his forearms clasped behind his back, his scaled skin reflecting the blue glow of the control panels. "How much longer until we reach this Earth?" he asked, the words sounding strange on his forked tongue. 3 hours, Admiral replied, Commander Mox tapping on a transparent screen. "Our scout ships have already entered their solar system and report minimal defensive capabilities." Admiral Toole nodded, his yellow eyes narrowing. The Emperor had sent him on many first contact missions before, but this one seemed hardly worth his time. These humans had barely managed to reach their own moon. Their technology was primitive, and their planet was divided into competing factions. They would be easy to bring into the Empire. Prepare the standard intimidation formation, ordered Admiral Toole. "Let's show these primitives what real space power looks like." Behind the Dominator, 20 warships arranged themselves in perfect formation. Each one could destroy an entire city from orbit. The display of force had worked on hundreds of other species. It would work on humans too. As the Imperial fleet approached Earth, they detected unusual activity. Humans had noticed them coming and were scrambling their own vessels. Tiny, clumsy things powered by chemical rockets. Admiral Toole almost laughed at the sight of them on the view screen. "Look at those primitive ships," sneered Commander Mox. "They use combustion engines. How have they not blown themselves up yet?" "Remember, Commander, we were all primitive once," said Admiral Tall, though he couldn't hide his smile. "Open communication channels. Let's see if they can at least talk properly." The main screen flickered and a human face appeared. It belonged to General Tom, head of Earth's Unified Defense Command. His expression was calm, which surprised Admiral Tall. Most species showed fear when facing the Imperial fleet for the first time. "Unknown vessels. This is Earth Defense Command. You have entered restricted space. Identify yourselves and state your purpose." Admiral Tall stepped forward, drawing himself up to his full height, nearly 8 feet tall. "I am Admiral Tall of the Galactic Empire. Your planet has been noticed by Emperor Dra, ruler of 1,000 worlds. We come to offer you the opportunity to join our glorious empire as a protected territory." General Tom's expression didn't change. "And if we're not interested in this opportunity?" The question took Admiral Toole by surprise. Most species begged to join the Empire after seeing their fleet. "Then we would be forced to demonstrate the benefits of our protection," said Admiral Tall, his voice growing colder. "Your world faces many dangers in this galaxy. It would be unfortunate if you had to face them alone." General Tom nodded slowly. "I see. Let me be clear, Admiral. Earth is not interested in becoming anyone's protected territory. We welcome peaceful relations with other civilizations, but we will defend our independence." Commander Mox couldn't contain his laughter. "Defend with what? Those metal cans you call spaceships?" Admiral Tall raised a hand to silence his subordinate, but the damage was done. General Tom's eyes hardened. "We may not have your advanced technology, Admiral, but humans have something your empire seems to lack: respect for others. I suggest you reconsider your approach." The communication ended abruptly. leaving Admiral Toole staring at a blank screen. For a moment he felt a flicker of unease. Most species submitted immediately. These humans were either very brave or very foolish. "They cut the transmission," exclaimed Commander Mox. "The primitives dare to disrespect the Empire. Send a scout ship closer to their orbital stations," ordered Admiral Toole. "Let's see how they react to a closer look at our technology." One of the smaller Imperial ships broke formation and moved toward Earth's orbit, where several space stations and satellites floated as it approached. Sensors detected increased activity from Earth. "Admiral, the humans are launching something," reported the sensor officer. "It appears to be a small vessel of some kind, primitive design, but moving at surprising speed." On the view screen, they watched as a human ship approached their scout vessel. It was small, perhaps 1/10 the size of the Imperial Scout, with a boxy design that looked hastily assembled. "Are they trying to attack us?" Commander Mox laughed. With that, Admiral Toole wasn't laughing. Something felt wrong. "Order our scout ship to maintain distance," but it was too late. The human vessel suddenly accelerated, moving with unexpected agility. It approached the Imperial scout ship and seemed to attach itself to its hull. "What are they doing?" Admiral Toole demanded. Before anyone could answer, a bright flash appeared on the screen. When it cleared, the Imperial scout ship was drifting, its systems offline. The human vessel had detached and was quickly retreating back to Earth. "Impossible," shouted Commander Mox. "They disabled an Imperial ship." "Oh." Admiral Toole stared at the screen in disbelief. "Analysis. What happened to our scout ship?" "It appears to be an electromagnetic pulse weapon, Admiral," said the science officer after a moment. "Simple technology, but effectively deployed. Our scout ship systems are rebooting now." Admiral Toole felt a cold feeling in his stomach. No newly discovered species had ever damaged an Imperial vessel during first contact. Was unheard of. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Earth again," said the communications officer. General Tom's face appeared on screen once more. "That was a warning shot, Admiral. We prefer peace, but we are prepared for the alternative. You have 24 hours to leave our solar system." The transmission ended. Admiral Tall stood in stunned silence. These humans were not like other species. They showed no fear. They had actually fought back and succeeded. "Recall all ships," he finally ordered. "We need to report this to the Emperor. These humans are unusual." As the Imperial fleet retreated to a safe distance, Admiral Toole gazed at the blue planet on the view screen. For the first time in his long career, he felt uncertain. The Empire had encountered thousands of species, but none quite like these humans. "This isn't over," he murmured. "The Empire doesn't tolerate resistance. We'll be back, humans, and next time we won't underestimate you." Little did he know that the Empire's worst nightmare was just beginning. 3 months had passed since the embarrassing first contact with Earth. The Imperial Council chambers buzzed with tension as Admiral Toole stood before Emperor Dyer, explaining what had happened for the 20th time. "And you're certain their technology was primitive?" asked Emperor Dra, his massive form looming on the throne. His skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed with his irritation. "Yes, Emperor, they still use combustion engines and chemical rockets. Their disabling of our scout ship was likely a lucky strike, Admiral Tal replied, trying to sound confident. Despite his doubt, Emperor Drax's eyes narrowed. Then we shall send a proper greeting force, show these humans what it means to defy the Empire. Before Admiral Tal could respond, a junior officer burst into the chambers, breaking all protocol. Forgive me, Emperor, he gasped, dropping to his knees. Long-range sensors have detected something entering our controlled space. In Sector 7, what is it? Demanded the Emperor. It appears to be a human ship. Sir, a wave of laughter rippled through the council chamber. One small human ship was hardly a threat, and this required interrupting our council. Emperor Doctor asked coldly. The officer trembled. Sir, the ship is massive, nearly the size of our largest battle cruiser, and the energy reading there off the charts. The laughter died instantly. Impossible, whispered Admiral Tal. They were just figuring out how to reach their own moon. Emperor Doctor rose from his throne. Captain Van, a tall, slender figure, stepped forward from the shadows. Captain Van was known throughout the Empire as their best strategist, with metallic implants covering half his face, enhancing his already impressive mental abilities. Take your battle group to intercept this human vessel. Determine if it truly is from Earth, and if so, how. They've advanced so quickly, Captain Van bowed low. As you command, Emperor. The Imperial battle group dropped out of faster than light travel near the edge of Sector 7. 5 sleek warships arranged themselves in attack formation, their weapon systems powered and ready. On the bridge of the lead ship, invincible Captain Vin studied the view screen with his organic eye, while his mechanical one processed data at incredible speeds. There it is, his second-in-command said quietly, pointing to a blip on the sensor display. Captain Vin zoomed in on the object. What he saw made his breath catch. The ship was unlike anything in the Imperial database. It was massive, nearly as large as their largest battle cruiser, but with a completely different design philosophy. Where Imperial ships were sleek and elegant, this vessel was blocky and overbuilt, with thick armor plating and what appeared to be multiple redundant systems. That can't be human warship, Captain Vin said, his voice barely above a whisper. Is that possible, sir? They're hailing us, communications officer reported on screen. Ordered Captain Vin, straightening his uniform. The view screen flickered, and a human face appeared. He wore a simple dark uniform with minimal decorations. This is Captain Jack of the Earth vessel Defiance. We come in peace and request diplomatic talks with the Galactic Empire. Captain Vin studied the human carefully. This is Captain Vin of the Imperial Defense Fleet. Your ship's capabilities exceed our intelligence. Reports on human technology. Explain yourselves. Captain Jack smiled slightly. Captain, we've been watching the stars for centuries. Did you really think we would announce all our capabilities to the first aliens who arrived? You're claiming this level of advancement was hidden when we first contacted Earth? Captain Vin asked incredulously. Not hidden, just not displayed. Your Admiral tool didn't exactly make a good first impression. Captain Vin's tactical mind raced. If the humans had deceived them about their technology, what else had they hidden? Sir, his science officer whispered urgently, our scans show their power source is some form of control fusion, but it's using principles our scientists believed were theoretically impossible to stabilize. Captain Van kept his face Neutral, Captain Jack. The Emperor has authorized me to conduct preliminary negotiations. Would you be willing to come aboard my vessel? I'd be delighted, replied Captain Jack, but I must insist on bringing a small security detail for diplomatic purposes. Of course, we'll prepare a shuttle bay for your arrival. As the communication ended, Captain Van turned to his crew. Full analysis of that ship. I want to know everything about it before they arrive and alert the Emperor immediately. An hour later, Captain Jack stood in the grand meeting room of the Invincible, accompanied by 3 human officers. They showed no signs of being impressed by the Imperial technology surrounding them. Your ship is quite remarkable, Captain Vio began, gesturing for the humans to sit. Our scientists are particularly interested in your power source, Captain Jack nodded. Simple fusion, really. We've been working on it for centuries, but the containment field you're using shouldn't be possible, said the Imperial Science officer. The energy required to maintain such stability would exceed the output. One of the human officers, a woman with short gray hair, smiled. That would be true if you approach the problem from an energy containment perspective. We approached it from a material science angle instead. Material science, repeated Captain Van, confused. While you were developing energy fields to contain plasma, we were developing materials that could physically hold it, Captain Jack explained. Different path, same destination. Captain Vin felt a chill run down his spine. The Empire had always focused on energy manipulation, considering physical materials to be a primitive approach. Had they been wrong all this time? And your weapon systems? He asked carefully. We prefer not to discuss those unless necessary, replied Captain Jack. We're here to talk peace, not war. Captain Vin nodded slowly. Of course, however, you must understand our concern. 3 months ago you were barely able to reach your own moon. Now you arrive in a warship rivaling our best vessels. As I said, Captain, we've been watching the stars for a long time. We knew we weren't alone, so we prepared. When your Admiral Tool arrived making threats, we simply accelerated our timeline before Captain Vin could respond. His communication device bust. Excuse me, he said, stepping away to take the message. Sir, came the urgent voice of his sensor officer. We've detected energy signatures from the human vessel. They've activated some sort of weapon system. Captain Van glanced back at the humans who were calmly waiting, showing no signs of hostility. Are they targeting us? He whispered. No, sir, but the energy I'll put is it's off the charts. Whatever they're powering up could potentially disable our entire battle group. Captain Van returned to the table, his face carefully composed. Captain Jack, sensors indicate your ship has activated weapon systems. Care to explain, Captain? Jack's expression didn't change. Just a precaution, Captain. Your Emperor has dispatched another fleet to our location. They'll arrive within the hour. We wanted to be prepared just in case diplomacy fails. Captain Van felt his heart's racing. How had the humans detected the reinforcements? Even more concerning, how had they built such advanced sensor technology? I assure you, there's no need for weapons, Captain Vin said, trying to keep his voice steady. Emperor merely wishes to ensure these talks proceed smoothly. Of course, said Captain Jack with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Then we'll continue our discussion now about establishing Formal diplomatic relations between Earth and your empire. As the talks proceeded, Captain Van couldn't shake the feeling that everything the empire thought they knew about humans was wrong, and that realization terrified him more than any weapon ever could. The Grand Imperial Council chamber fell silent as Captain Vin finished his report about the human vessel, Defiance. Even Emperor Dra seemed shaken, his luminescent patterns pulsing erratically across his massive form. You mean to tell me, the Emperor said slowly, that these humans have achieved controlled fusion using material containment rather than energy fields? Captain Viven nodded, his cybernetic eye worrying as it projected data onto the large screen behind him. Yes, Emperor. And that's just the beginning. Their approach to technology is fundamentally different from ours. Admiral Toole stepped forward, his scales now pale yellow from stress. Different how where we pursue elegant solutions with minimal components, they build redundant, over-engineered systems. Captain Van explained, where we refine imperfect, they iterate and improvise. Most importantly, they've developed along technological paths we abandoned centuries ago. Seeing them as inefficient, the council chamber erupted in murmurs. The Empire had always prided itself on elegant technological solution systems that worked with perfect efficiency and minimal waste. The idea that a species would deliberately choose a different path seemed almost offensive. Emperor Dyer raised a hand for silence. Bring in the human delegates. I wish to hear this from them directly. Minutes later, Captain Jack and his team were escorted into the chamber. They showed no signs of intimidation despite being surrounded by the Empire's most powerful leaders. Captain Jack of Earth, Emperor Deer, voice boomed across the chamber. Your ship has caused quite a stir among my advisors. We find ourselves curious about human technology. Captain Jack bowed slightly. We are happy to explain. Emperor, though, I should warn you that I'm a soldier, not a scientist. Dr. Anna here would be better suited to answer technical questions. The woman with gray hair stepped forward. Perhaps I can clarify some misconceptions. When we detected your scout ships approaching our solar system months ago, we realized we needed to accelerate our plans. You knew we were coming? Admiral Tull asked. Surprised, Dr. Anna smiled. We've been watching the stars for centuries. Our telescopes detected your ships long before you entered our system. Impossible, snorted the Imperial Science Advisor. Your technology couldn't possibly. Actually, Dr. Anna interrupted politely. While our space travel technology was indeed limited, our observational equipment is quite advanced. We've been studying the universe from our planet's surface for hundreds of years. She tapped a small device on her wrist, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed what appeared to be the internal workings of the Defiance. The fundamental difference in our approach is this, she explained. Your empire builds ships like fine jewelry, precise, elegant, minimal. We build ships like fortresses, redundant, robust, over-engineered. The hologram zoomed in on the ship's power core. Take our fusion reactor. You contain plasma with energy fields, which is elegant but vulnerable to power fluctuations. We contain it with layers of specially developed materials that can physically withstand the heat and pressure. But that's so inefficient, protested the science advisor. inefficient but reliable, countered Dr. Anna. If your energy field fails,